Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast. We are a Green Bay Packers fan podcast that brings you topical and relevant Packers news along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 276. We're recording this on Wednesday. No, it's a Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. This is a video episode. So if you're listening on the podcast, try heading over to our YouTube channel and check out today's show on video. We'll be discussing a couple news topics along with us predicting the win-loss record for the Packers' upcoming season. I'm your host, Tay, and with me on video tonight is our one and only
Ren. What up, Tay? How we doing on a Tuesday? That's a Wednesday. Hey, we got a holiday in a couple days, so yeah. How we doing, Tay?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, we got 3 weeks until training camp, but this is the dead time. This is the dead season, but I'm still excited. I'm still looking forward to it. I think you and I are locked in to go to July 22nd, the opening day of training camp, and also the shareholders meeting.
Yeah, they
the afternoon
coincide this year, Tay. That's pretty awesome, man. Go to training camp, then go hit it out, man, because we're
Yeah,
owners.
I mean,
go see what the new state of the Packers is. I mean, we're going to speak about Ed here in a minute. I'm sure Ed's going to have a moment at the podium with Mark. They'll talk about that probably maybe for the really first time kind of in person out there together. So that'll be kind of an interesting afternoon, maybe a little boring as we know the owners meeting can be, but we are owners and we have to make sure we have our finger on the pulse, Day.
That's right. It should be fun. And if you all got this letter from the Packers, they indicate that they made the first day of training camp the same date as the shareholder meeting, and they moved the time of the meeting like later so then they could accommodate people going to the practice in the morning like us. So that's great. We're gonna go over there, check out the practice, walk over to the stadium, and watch wherever it takes place.
Have a bite,
Have a bite,
have
a
beer,
brew,
maybe. Yeah.
So I don't know, that's kind of got me really excited because obviously we're all waiting for training camp to start and to see what this team actually becomes or is. I know, a lot of people lately are speculating about maybe what's going to happen from like today to training camp, the 22nd. Like there might be things happening, but I don't think there'll be anything happening. I don't think there's gonna be any trades happening. There's not gonna be any like cuts or ads. I just think they're gonna go in like with what they have right now.
I think there's a pretty big one looming today over the next 20 days.
What do you think that is? What do you think that is?
I don't know. One Mr. Jordan Love and lots of numbers and lots of guarantees, and I'm sure that will happen without a doubt. And we'll get to talk about that one because that'll break anytime between now and the 22nd. We got 20 days, man. Yeah, 20 days. It's here. Yeah. Summer is nearly over, basically.
I guess I didn't mean the extension was not a big move. It is, and it will be. But I'm just saying, like acquisitions, trades, anything crazy happening to the roster. I don't see that happening. I don't know. The Love thing is, if you've been listening to what I've been saying, I don't like big contracts, right? So if this doesn't happen by next week's episode, Ren, I think we should revisit this and how we feel about the Jordan Love and what they should be doing, what they will do, and kind of what the universe thinks out there, what they think, because we all kind of assume that this is going to happen, and we're assuming he's going to get paid. So I don't know. I want to pick your brain, not right now, but soon enough.
Brian made his overtures, so we know that it's in the works. So
yes,
it's going to start with a 5 and end near a 6. I don't know. It's gonna be fun.
If it started with the 4, I would be ecstatic.
That's like a light
9.5
light years ago, Tay. It's just yeah, because that's a Jordan Love agent hang up the phone kind of thing. So, but we'll get there.
So, in this other stuff here, and that I got in the mail from the Packers, there was some sort of like procedure change. Maybe it was like a covenant issue document. No, it wasn't a bylaw thing. No. I believe it was a policy change.
Aha! I see what you did there. Wow, man.
Yeah.
Woo! That's good
So
stuff, Tay.
this news broke last week, Ren.
It did.
And for other scheduling and other personal scheduling events last week, we didn't do an episode, but this broke last week, and everyone's had their time and their place to talk about this. But here's ours. So Ed Policy gets the nod. He gets elected. Here, let me bring this graphic up since I made it. He is elected next president and chief executive officer, Mr. Ed. So he's been in the building for 12 years with the Packers, and he kind of like came to this position from, I think, being like out in New York somewhere. But he's entering his 13th year overall with the organization, and I just feel like this was a no-brainer. You also thought this was a no-brainer, that we knew this was going to happen. So were you shocked? Like, what was your first reaction to this? And you're like,
I mean, the whole election committee stuff and them putting out their feelers out into the universe with other candidates. I understand you have to do it.
Yeah.
And, but they spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars with search committees and they interview other candidates. But I don't think anybody was ever a serious consideration. I mean, they've been developing Ed for years. He's been Mark's right-hand man. When Mark moved away from the kind of more business-oriented piece, Ed's been doing that the whole time. Ed has all the connections with the city and officials and businesses, which is a great thing. So it's not like a new guy coming in. He knows anybody and everything that makes Green Bay and the surrounding areas go, and the Packers' connectivity to the state of Wisconsin with lawmakers, et cetera. Ed Policy has met them, knows them, and already has rapport with them. So it was an easy thing. He comes from an NFL family. Obviously, we know Carmen Policy and his legacy with Cleveland and San Francisco. So, I mean, his roots are born in the NFL, even as a very young man growing up in his family. Doesn't have the interesting part to me is, and it's been brought up by others, I've listened to so many different takes on this, but doesn't have, the football kind of making decisions over personnel thing that Mark Murphy did. Mark Murphy was a football player for the Washington Redskins. He was, an athletic director at Colgate, his alma mater, and then at Northwestern, he hired coaches. So, I mean, he had fingers kind of in the football pot with that hiring and firing and personnel pieces, where Ed doesn't really have that. He's been the business side, the COO, the chief operating officer of the Green Bay Packers. So that part's interesting to me, with that he doesn't know that, because we know that currently the Medler went through that structure change.
The silos, the tearing down the silos.
Tearing down the silos, but did he create 3 silos in doing so? Because then, you had Russ Ball, and you have your GM Brian Gutekunst, and you have your head coach Matt LaFleur, all reporting to him. So if they want to complain about each other, they go over to Mark and the boss. Do they continue with that? Or do they go back to the classic, GM runs football operation structure that was under, obviously, Ron Wolf and, Ron Wolf, I shouldn't say Ron Wolf, but Bob Harlan before. That's the way it was with Mark for quite a while until Mark changed it. And not having that kind of, I guess, football acumen. But again, I mean, he's been there with Mark throughout this time. It'll be interesting because Mark Murphy fired Mike McCarthy. Mark Murphy, remember when Mark Murphy's mom said, "I know who you're going to hire. It's Matt LaFleur." And Mark Murphy hired Matt LaFleur. So it'll be interesting to see if Ed kind of just says, "Yeah, we're going to stick with this for now and see if this is the right thing to do." I suspect that's what they're going to do. Or you go back and then you maybe, you get one guy tattling on the other to the owners, the owner, the de facto owner, and now Ed Policy. It'll be interesting to see how they decide to go there forward. Because I think for the most part with Mark, although I like to, poke fun at him, I think he's had a very successful run as the Packers president. He's done very good things. He's the man who built Titletown, did some nice things, obviously won a Super Bowl under his watch with Aaron Rodgers, came in with all that nutty fart stuff. He was just a newbie at that time. And then he kind of ushered the same thing with the Rodgers stuff, but it went a lot smoother and it was a lot more quiet in that transition out. So Mark certainly did a lot of things in Green Bay and brought the draft to Green Bay, which may be a one-time ever thing. Mm-hmm. So pretty successful tenure as the president of the Packers. I think, hey, Bob Harlan, we all love and know Bob was the type of guy to, return a fan's phone call, and he got Lambeau Field, revitalized. He went door to door, literally knocked doors. He was quite the guy, and we all love and, remember Bob very fondly. And I think when we look back at the success and what transpired under Murphy's tenure, I think we'll say the same things. But that said, I mean, Ed will be there relatively about the same amount of time as, the two previous. So pretty interesting. He's 53 now, will be 54, I believe, when he takes over the reins a year from now. When we get to the owners meeting here, in 12 short months, Tay.
Well, and let's
how about some of your thoughts on that? I ran a little long there, obviously, but I can give you more if you'd like. But
no.
Hey,
that's great. And I'll piggyback off some of that. Like I love this hire. Like you said, it's like, were they really going to pick anybody else? I don't think so. I think they report here. I've got the Packers.com article up. The search committee worked through a list of more than 90 prospects, applicants, and referrals. It's like, okay, whatever. They have to go through the motions. I get it. We all get it.
I was one of those 90, Tay. They threw mine out, but
they're like, Ren,
it was like done. Yeah.
Done.
I, threw my name
89. Out. So, we all understand the process, and they have to say that, they have to do that, but we, kind of all knew it. And when we had Rob Domofsky on, I think it was last fall, he kind of threw out the, what's the guy out in Seattle, Ren? I'm totally spacing now.
That would be our guy from De Pere, John
Schneider.
Thank you.
Like maybe he's in the running. That was kind of like, oh, okay, interesting, great.
I would got ties. Honestly, that would have been an interesting candidate. I'd like to know if he was on the list at all. I'm sure he would have been interested in the position.
They probably sent him a text, hey, interested in this? I got my own stuff going on. Okay, never mind. But so I'm sure there were interesting names out there. But I think in the end, this was a smart move. I don't mind that he doesn't have a ton of like actual playing experience or coaching experience. I don't think the Packers need a guy. Maybe that was some of the problems with Mark the Meddler Murphy, is that he was a player and he maybe had,
he was an all-pro
sentiments.
Too.
Yeah,
he was all-pro a couple times, I believe, as a player. Yep.
So and that was great. And maybe we needed that. Maybe we needed Mark to be Mark during, his tenure here. But I don't think we necessarily need that anymore. Ed Policy came along for the ride. He was there for the whole Titletown, development, with Mark. And that was great. And that's what we need. I think we need someone that can oversee that stuff. And that's kind of what we wanted Mark to do, is like, go sledding, Mark. Like, go down there, man. You do that. You cut ribbons.
Hands, kiss babies.
You cut ribbons. You take the first slide down that hill in the winter, but don't be meddling in football operations. Leave that to Brian Gutekunst, MLF. They've got this. I'm totally fine with that, and I'm fine with seeing how it goes. If it doesn't go well and it blows up in our face, well, I'm not gonna be like, well, I regret hiring Ed Policy. At this moment, I don't, and I'm totally fine with it. He knows what it's like to be up there doing things, and I think his main responsibility is keeping the Packers on track, and a lot of that is financial track, and I think he's the right guy for that. I have no doubt in my mind, and I don't see a problem with this. So I love it, and I think I don't see him being the guy that they all report to. They might, he's responsible, right? Ultimately, but I don't know if he's going to be the guy behind the desk, and they're all, he's got his financial guy, his head coach, and his GM is sitting in front of him, all reporting to him like Mark did. But and we kind of questioned that too over the years, after the silo, admission. We kind of suspected that kind of changed over time too, and all of a sudden, oh, now there's some other issues that we were like, I thought the silo thing was done, but so who knows? Who knows? But I think this is a good choice. It'll be a good transition. And Mark's got to go. I mean, it's a law, right? Packers law.
Packers law. They age him out at 70, Tay.
And I love it. I love it. So hopefully we get a nice.
I think it's a great thing. I think maybe Brian Gutekunst and the relationship he has with Mark might be wishing, hey man, I wish it was 75. Because I think they do have a very good working relationship. I would think Russ Ball probably has the same thing to say about it. It seems like it's a pretty well-working, well-oiled machine. But, I mean, do you think that they'll continue that management style with him overseeing it up front when he gets the ground running in 25? Just a initial take.
I have to see Ed in action, like talking. I don't even know how Ed talks. Like, I don't even know how his personality is. I have no idea. Like, I remember him being at the podium for some things for Titletown, but I never paid attention really. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think I vaguely remember him being hired back in, what was that, 2012 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know him. And we know Mark. We've heard him talk and spill the beans 100 times.
Like everybody said, Mark is the worst poker player of all time. You ask him a question, he just can't help himself. Be it at a high school basketball game, or talking on a podcast with Wayne Larrabee. It's like bam at a kitchen table. You're just like, it's out there. It's on.
Exactly. So we know what we had with Mark. We know what we have with Brian Gutekunst now. We know what we have with MLF. We don't really know. So I don't know what the style will be, Ren. I wish I did. I wish I could predict that, but I just have no idea. So hopefully on the 22nd, when we actually see him up on the podium, maybe doing some speaking or, shaking Mark's hand, that we kind of get a glimpse of that. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
It'll be interesting. But the other good thing to know is, again, I think he's in good hands. Again, he has been developed. I mentioned, this was nobody's secret that Ed Policy was going to be the next president of the Green Bay Packers. It's like the Badgers, when Barry Alvarez brought in Chris McIntosh, he had him there as his right hand for a number of years. And they do a whole search committee when Barry's finally walking away as a athletic director. And guess who's the athletic director? It's Chris McIntosh. It's just, but everybody inside the building knows Ed Policy. Matt LaFleur knows Ed Policy. Russ Ball knows Ed Policy. Brian Gutekunst knows Ed Policy. They all and down to the groundskeepers. Everybody knows Ed Policy, so it's not like they all have a good feel for each other. So I think it's in good hands. It'd just be interesting to see his take, because everybody's their own person on how he wants to go about this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you brought it up a few minutes ago, but the what I like to call the CEO hierarchy. I mean, take a look at this graphic, Ren. We've got Bob Harlan, who did it for 17 years. And then that passes to, well, there was a gap year with some other guy with controversy, but we won't talk about that. Then we got Mark Murphy starting in 2007 till next year, right? 18 years. And like you mentioned, Ed Policy will turn 70 in 2041. And that could be 16 years of Ed Policy being the CEO. And just looking at this, it's like, holy, did we hit this? Are we going to hit this again? It's almost like the Jordan Love thing, right? Jordan Love, Ed Policy, Mark Murphy, Aaron Rodgers, Bob Harlan, Brett Favre. I mean, the legacy in this is paralleled, and it's almost, I don't know, it's uncanny to see this. And if this happens, if this transpires, this will be one of the greatest successions in, I think, CEO history with a major sports organization, because this is the only NFL team that's publicly owned, and look what we can do. I mean, look what we've done. And it's like, That's super impressive. So I hope that Ed is the right guy. I hope he lasts 16 years, and I hope we have to wait that long, because this will just be another look at the Packers. We are an upper echelon of NFL team. You want to be like us. Look at our CEO. It's not like some owner thing with the deep, just some crazy owner like Jerry Jones or Schneider, from Washington, that's just gonna burn it down. No, this is different, and I love to see that legacy kind of take place here and have the opportunity to be that way. But yeah, the parallels between the quarterback situation now and the CEO, amazing.
It's pretty cool, and really it started with Bob, obviously, because the Packers were in a state of massive disarray, and he came in, he brought in Ron Wolf and got this thing figured out, got a good football man. That's what he wanted him to be, as a football man, and he would do the rest of it himself. But yeah, Ed Policy was a unanimous decision by the board.
Yeah.
It was not like there were dissenters. It was like, yep, we know Ed. He's good. We like what he's done. And honestly, if you want to read one of his comments about the Packer tradition, it's you just go to our likes there on the X machine, Tay. It's pretty amazing. I mean, he gets the spirit of the Packers and what it is.
Yep. Did you want to look at that quote, Ren?
Yeah, bring it up. Let's see it, Tay.
Always leaving me to do the dirty work.
Yeah, that's what you're here to do, Tay. You are the man behind the screen. You're like the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We do have to see you, though. It'd be nice to just pull the thing over and you're like, yeah, Tay's got a face for radio.
How about this? How about Ed's face? All right. Well, Ed says this. We will continue our relentless focus on building a winning culture that transcends the playing field. The Lombardi Trophy will always be our North Star, and ensuring a positive impact on our community will continue to be paramount in our decision making. We have the greatest fans in sports, and will never take their commitment to the Packers for granted. Mr. Ed Policy.
So Lombardis are important, community connections important, and the uniqueness of the Green Bay Packers franchise is something to always be pointed forward.
And that championship,
that's what I take out of there.
That championship, that Lombardi Trophy is always paramount. That's
absolutely,
that's the goal every year. Yep. And we've heard Brian Gutekunst talk about that all the time. So I love that, and he gets it. I mean, at least he's saying the right words. So, but I believe he knows.
100, as the kids say, Tay.
100. All right. Speaking of kids, there's like 24-year-old kid with some news this week or last week. Ren, you want to transition to that story?
I mean, love is in the air. That's all I can tell you, Tay. There's one ring, Jordan had this year, and let's hope it's not the only one. So, congratulations to Mr. Jordan Love and his longtime girlfriend, Ronica Stone, on their engagement in Italy about 7 to 10 days ago. David Bakhtiari, a week before that, said, hey, man, this guy, she's a great girl. He's got to put a ring on it. And he did just that. And, we support QB1 in his choice. Sounds like he made a good choice with a good woman. And, it'll only bring him more future success.
Yep. Congratulations, you two. I hope, we don't really dabble in the personal lives of players really ever, but when something positive is happening, you got to acknowledge it and say congratulations. And it's kind of, I always joke about it. Like, this is the season, this is the off season where stuff like this happens. Either you get married, you get engaged, you have a baby, you got to plan it all around these 4 weeks here. So Jordan did just that. And we want to extend our congratulations to you both. Hopefully there's 2 rings involved, Ren.
That's exactly right. This is just the first day.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the wedding bands. We're not talking about the wedding bands to come. We're talking about something at the start of 2025.
Okay, Ren. Well, that's that. We got through our policy change. It's time for our predictions for the win-loss record for the Packers in 2024. So I think last episode we had out, Ren, we kind of went through the 53-man roster and decided to, choose who we thought we're going to make the roster at the end of the training camp. Well, now our turn is for the record. And we did have the release of the schedule, I don't know, what was that, a month ago or so, or maybe more than that, a month and a half ago. We kind of teased, we kept putting it off, but now we're going to try to predict the record that will have wins and losses in it for the Packers. And honestly, again, like the 53-man roster, this was a little tough because back when the schedule released, you came down with 11-6 as
Correct.
your overall record,
I
and
did.
I initially had 10-7, and then I joined you, but then I looked at that again and said, no, I'm just going to stick with that 10-7 one. So I want to put this graphic up here, and then we're going to go through each week, and then we'll predict it. And if you got anything to say about it, chime in. But otherwise, we'll just move down the list from week to week, and we will see what's happening. All right, Ryan. First week, we're in Brazil, week 1. It's a Philadelphia home game, technically, but we all know that we are on equal playing field. So, what say you? Is that a loss or a win for the Packers?
I went lost, Tay, and when I did this exercise by myself, this is a game I wanted to put a W on really, really, really bad. I just had to find 6, and I go, well, long travel, start the season. It's just had to pick this one. It went W for me a couple times, but I'm like, no, we'll just go with the loss, and then they'll reel off 3 straight. But how about you, Tay?
I say they win. I think the Eagles are not what they are, or what they have been in years past. I think that Jalen Hurts thing is like he's still on the struggle bus. So I'm looking forward to the Packers beating them on a neutral playing field first week. I think the Packers are in a good spot, even with the defensive coach change. So I think they're going to come out of the gate, at least defensively, playing really well. And given the offense has a whole another year under their belt, generally the same players. I don't see a drop off there. I think they're gonna know what they have to do, and I think they're gonna win. So I put a dub up.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a close one, but I'm going loss week 1 in Brazil.
Week 2, they're at home against the Colts. I say it's a noon game. Colts aren't a threat to me, at least. I think that's a win.
Yeah, first real home game for the Packers. We know they'll get a little home love in Brazil, but not quite enough. Yeah, you get the W against the Colts. We're not quite sure where AR-15 will be with the
Right.
Colts yet. Coming off that injury last year, they're kind of a weird enigma team trying to get figured out. But I think the Packers will get it done on their home field with a pretty boisterous crowd to open the 2024 season at home.
The week 3 is at Tennessee in Nashville, playing the Titans. That's a noon game. I have that as a win also. I just I don't think they're a threat anymore offensively, and I think that's a pretty easy win for the Packers.
Yeah, I see a lot of, while it's away, I see a lot of holes up and down that offensive lineup for the Titans. I don't know how they get it done with the second year quarterback without much wide receiver running back talent. Yeah, I think it should be a fairly easy win for the Packers in Tennessee.
In week 4, we come back home and we play the Minnesota Vikings, our first divisional game. The Vikings are definitely not what they used to be. They have a bunch of young players, including the quarterback. I don't think that the Vikings in general will give us more trouble than they ever have, and they were always beatable to me. So that is a win in week 4.
Yeah, I expect the Vikings stay to be on the struggle bus for a lot of the year, I should say. Not Justin Jefferson, but pretty much the rest of that football team. I think they're okay when it comes to a little pass rush, etc. But I just don't think they have enough, especially early in the season, with their questions at quarterback. Depending on who is playing at quarterback, week 4 could already be JJ McCarthy. We'll see, but I
Yeah.
think the Vikings are going to get a rude awakening. I'm sure Aaron Jones gets a touchdown in Green Bay and etc. But outside of that, I don't see much fireworks from the Vikings week 4.
And I I'm gonna clap for and cheer for Aaron Jones to come back. Still look like the guy. He was great for the Packers, so I'll welcome him back with open arms. I'm not afraid.
I mean, when you see that purple and yellow sombrero walking out, no thanks.
Yeah, I know. Maybe he'll be tactful and not wear it.
Oh, he's gonna wear that.
We'll see.
He's gonna have them fast glasses on with that sombrero, walking on the field early before game time.
Next week is week 5. We stay at home. It's the LA Rams coming to town. I have this one as a loss. I just think 4 wins in a row is pretty tough out of the gate. I think for me, I have 4 wins, and then I just think the Rams still have some things. I know that some players are have left there, but still have a good quarterback. They still have a young running back. And I don't know. I feel like this, to me, my gut says it's a loss.
Yeah, I also want L there, Tay. I mean, I think Matt LaFleur has pretty much bested his friend out there quite a number of times in a row. So I just think
out there
and here.
Yeah.
So I just think he's gonna get one from Sean this time. Obviously, Aaron Donald is retired, but I had to pick 6 losses. This is one I had to go with. So I went with the Rams.
Week 6 is out in Arizona. Noon game. I mean, I don't see Arizona as a threat. I think that's a young team that hasn't found themselves. They're not consistent enough. They have some playmakers, but I just don't see how they get it together. Is Marvin Harrison now Jr. there?
Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, yep.
But you got Kyler Murray thrown to him, so I don't know.
What's that going to look like exactly?
So I don't have faith in that team. I think the Packers have it way more together, and take care of business out in Arizona. It's a win.
I agree. I mean, there's not much to say about the Arizona Cardinals today. I think that's at this point a little bit of a poverty franchise in the NFL, and I think they're going to be near the bottom for a few years until Kyler is replaced. I just don't think he's the answer in Arizona. Obviously, having Marvin Harrison Jr. there certainly won't hurt him at all, but I just don't see any way that again, this whole win and loss record is based on the Packers being fairly healthy, obviously, especially at the quarterback position. But yeah, they should handle the Arizona Cardinals.
Week 7 is at home against the Texans. Young team still with the Texans, but a young good team, and I think that's a loss. You don't want to put too many losses at home because you just feel like they should win. But I think this opponent coming to Lambeau again, like you keep saying, I have to come up with 7 losses, so this is one for me. It's not a huge leap here with the loss, but a loss nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that team. That's 2 teams that are very similar to each other. Obviously, in that trajectory last year with first-year starters, one a rookie, one obviously a fourth-year starter, but first-year starters in general. I think they have a great young defense in the making in Houston. I think their defense is just a little further along than the Packers. Good mind at the head coaching position with defense and DeMeco Ryans. And they have quite the receiving core right away. I mean, you're talking, they brought in Diggs, they got Tank Dell. I forget the other receiver right off the top of my head.
Collins.
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded at the wide receiver position. Good young football team. Packers, unfortunately, come out just a bit short on that one at home.
Week 8 is at Jacksonville against the Jaguars. Noon game. Trevor Lawrence and crew, I still think are a mediocre team. I don't see them winning against the Packers at this point. I think it's kind of like less than the Texans, so like you can kind of do some parallels with the Packers and the Jaguars, but in the end, I think the Packers win this one. It's a away game. Packers win.
I went with a loss just as this is one of those squirrely ones. They don't have the best history going down there, and I think they just get beat by a team on the road when you don't expect one. Especially coming off a loss the week before, you're like, nah, they got this team, and you get one of those weird squirrely L's on the road against a team they should beat. That's again, I had to pick 6, and that's how I ended up picking that particular game.
It makes sense. The following week, week 9, is at home against Detroit. I mark it as a loss. I think I got to come up with some losses. This one looks good. I think the Lions are the team to beat in the NFC North going into the season, so they should be formidable. And I'm gonna put an L up there.
I'm going W at home, right before the bye.
Okay.
You're back at home after a couple losses. They want to. Hey, they know this is their mark to beat. They're at home. They win going into the bye.
Bye week is week 10. Week 11 is
perfect bye week, by the way, Tay. You like that one
perfect.
right where it's at. That is beautifully positioned.
And hopefully, if they have any injuries early, they have time to bounce back and come back after the bye. Week 11, the showdown in Chicago against the Bears. Our first meeting with the Bears. It's at noon. There's a lot of hype around this. There will be a ton of hype. I don't think the Packers are worse than the Bears, but I'm going to mark this one as an L. I think it's an upset by the Bears. Bears will beat the Packers, not because they're just an overall general team. I just think they just win this day. So I got an L. I know it's probably it was hard for me to put that one down, but I see it happening. I see them, rising up and beating the Packers and just all of a sudden being super full of themselves, potentially.
Oh, the Bears fans will be all over it, Tay. All over the socials.
This will be that will be their Super Bowl, honestly.
Bingo. That's why I also marked it as a loss. It is their Super Bowl with the new regime, with obviously having Caleb, the crazy wide receiving core they have. They're going to be so up for this game. Yeah. This is the one circled on the calendar. The first game against the Packers of the year at home in Chicago. The Bears finally get one against Matt LaFleur. Remember, Bears fan, that'll still be Matt LaFleur 10, Bears 1. Right. So that's it.
We will obviously talk about that a lot because there's a bye week, before that game.
Yep.
And we'll probably have on our friend Joey Christopoulos, the Bears fan, fanatic, and analyst that we have on the show. We'll obviously get his take before that game happens. I don't think we'll mention that we both pick a loss here, Ren. So we'll just keep that between us and the rest of the universe here.
Let's see if he's listening. So he might know and be like, "What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Did you not believe in your Packers?"
He's like, I know.
So.
Well, week 12 is back at home against San Francisco, and this was one I was like, it's got to be an L. It's got to be an L. But I think this year's different. I think there's some coaching bleeding that happened over at the Niners this year. I think you got the Deebo Samuel stuff. You have some people leaving. I just don't think that team is exactly who they were the last few years. I think that they win against the 49ers, and it starts a new chapter with that rivalry that goes the Packers' way. Win.
Yeah, I think the Packers are sick of losing to them, and they're a bunch of young guys. I forget. Do you remember which Packer said, "Hey, I'm sick of losing these guys"? And he's friends with Deebo, and it was one of the CBs. I think it was Rasul. He said, "Yeah, I'm sick of losing these guys," and I think they're going to be up for that one. They're going to get that one at home against the Niners after get that taste from the NFC divisional round out of their mouth. They'll beat the Niners. Yep.
The week following is week 13 versus Dolphins at home. We have 2 back-to-back home games. This one was another one. I was like, this just feels weird, feels off. Dolphins are a decent team when they're playing really well. Not to be taken lightly, and I think it's too much for the Packers in this week, and I think they get an L. I think That's my my fifth loss for the season, and I think it's back. No, it's a sorry, not a back to back. Loss after the great win against the Niners.
No, it's another W. Tay. The Dolphins don't play well. It'll be starting to get cold in Green Bay. They have that long trip Thanksgiving night. It's going to be juiced at Lambeau. I don't see how that team coming up from Miami, even if it's in like the low 40s, they'll be like, "What's this?" It's like it is the frozen tundra. It's not even below freezing. They'll still get the living crap beat out of them because
You're probably right. You're probably right. But I just feel like it's a trap game. All signs point to the Packers winning that one. That's why I'm marking it an L. The following week is at Detroit. It's an L. I think the Detroit Lions sweep us. I have 2 losses against Detroit in this little game here, and I think we go back-to-back losses with another loss at Detroit here for the Packers.
Yeah, they're losing at Detroit. Tay. They're going to split with the series with Detroit. But that's the only reason they're in the dome. Detroit fans get them. That's it.
Week 15 at Seattle, so they're going way out to the West Coast. I think this one too is for the narrative talk and the scenarios. You know, Seattle is still trying to figure out who they are and trying to pinpoint. You know, do they really have a quarterback in Geno Smith or not? They have some playmakers around. You know, with DK Metcalf and that sort of thing, but I think the Packers win. And I think it kind of feels like an upset because I think Seattle is maybe one of those teams that does better than we all think they should. And I think the Packers go out there and they get a dub.
I think Seattle's on the downswing, Tay. I really do.
Okay.
I don't think they have a lot of talent in that football team. This comes off the mini bye. It's 10 days between that game on December the 5th at Detroit until the 15th in Seattle. Even though it's a long West Coast trip, it's the longest probably trip of the year for the Packers outside of the Brazil game. It's a win for the Packers against a team that I don't think has much to play for with still 4 weeks to go.
Fair enough. Week 16, back home, New Orleans Saints. And this is like was it Friday? No, it's a Monday night football game. I think it's a win. I just don't see the Saints as a threat anymore. We had a close game last year with them, but I just don't see that happening again. This is late in the season, so the Packers will definitely know what they're doing, and they'll know who they are this year and take care of business at home against the Saints.
Yeah, Tay, New Orleans, I mean, I don't see much of that football team. David Carr, Derek Carr, whatever car it is out there, it's not the right car to be driving in. That's an aging football team, man. They've got a lot of problems. There's no way I see them coming up to Lambeau in December and winning that football game. W for the Pack.
Week 17, Minnesota. It's a home game for the Vikings. Packers go out there. I needed to put a loss somewhere, and this is where I selected. You know, maybe the Vikings get lucky. They don't get our best shot. Maybe we're complacent. Maybe we made the playoffs. Maybe whatever. There's a bunch of scenarios that could happen where the Packers aren't taking it very seriously, or there's injuries. But I think this one I had to come up with 10 losses. So this one gets it.
10 losses.
7 losses I had to come up with, and this was one of them. So I had to do it. And some of those games during the year, you lose them and you're like, why? How is this possible? And this is one of those for us.
Fair enough. I don't see it happening, Tay. The Vikings have nothing to play for by that time, late in the season. It's JJ McCarthy without a doubt. And the Vikings are just playing for, I guess, themselves a little, going into the season with trying to get a dub going into the offseason, but I don't see it happening in Green Bay. I see that team in tatters a little bit, heading the wrong direction, playing for a high draft pick at that point. So maybe even looking, hey, do we need to draft another quarterback already? Getting in that position, was J.J. McCarthy not the right choice? And the Vikings fans get a little squirrely
Got a case of the
So,
Bears, huh?
yeah. So no, yeah, that gets us to Chicago, final game of the season in Green Bay.
Yeah.
TBD, by the way.
Right. We don't know like when it is exactly. Could be prime time. But I think this is a win. I think whatever happened before in week 11 is fuel for the fire for the Packers. They can't let it happen again. Not in our house. This is a win. Maybe there's some scenario where there's so many injuries in the Packers. We're out of the playoffs. There's no reason to risk, some of the starters. Maybe you get a loss, but I don't think that's going to happen with the Packers. I think they need to. They might need to get this win to stay alive and be in the playoffs again. So I think this is a win. I think they are able to handle the Bears in their own house.
Yeah, I think they're playing for playoff seeding at that point, and it's going to be an electric environment in Green Bay. This one maybe gets flexed to, whatever primetime slot they have that weekend. Packers Bears, oldest rivalry in the NFL, but the Packers come out on top, and they, maybe looking at that second, third seed and going into the playoffs.
All right, so the totals: Ren is 11-6 for the Pack. I'm 10-7. I know that feels a little low for me. 10 wins, 7 losses, but I'm excited about this team. So don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot to like on the offensive side of the ball. Now that there's a year under the belt for all these starters, the defense should be better. But I'm just like not ready to go. Oh yeah, they went to the divisional round. Well, they're going to the NFC Championship, guaranteed. I'm not doing that, and I'm not ready to say that. I need to see some more. I need to see another good year out of Jordan Love and these wide receivers to kind of come in their own, where we can start saying, okay, I rely on them now. See what Josh Jacobs does. I'm just not ready to be like, oh yeah, they're going to get 13 wins for sure. They're winning the NFC North. They should, and they're capable of it, but I'm just not ready to go all in with this young developing team still. So that's why I'm pulling back a little bit. 10-7.
Is 10-7 worth that $58 million APY a year contract that Jordan Love just got, Tay? Are you feeling good about that with a 10-7 record?
Right, I know, and I think it's not necessarily the record. Like what the record may look bad at 10-7. With all that said, but you can lose tight games, you can lose by mistakes, and still have a good football team. So that's what I'm thinking here. I'm not thinking terrible Packers lose 7 games. They look like crap. I'm thinking these are tight games. It's just something didn't go their way, went the opponent's way. It was tight matchups. They're still playing good. The core is still there. We have faith in the coaches. All that stuff is all there. They just don't get enough, wins over 10. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's all well and good. There's no fires and there's no issues, but it's just that's the record.
Fair enough. I mean, when you asked me to redo this thing this week and get my win-loss back out, I found it hard to pick 6 today. In reality, I could have went to 13-4 easy. I just think that the offense is so multiple with the guys they have on it. All those receivers coming into year 2, the tight ends coming into year 2. We know both can play, running just different 2 tight end looks. Josh Jacobs was just on a show this week talking about how he believes Jordan Love is just, right there in the precipice of becoming the next NFL superstar at quarterback. He's so excited to play in this offense because he sees it. I mean, imagine coming from where the Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders are. They're kind of, I mentioned poverty franchises before. They're in a bad spot. They don't have a future quarterback on that roster. And he sees this. He's in town. He's like, man, and he does. He sees how he can be effective in this offense and what he can bring to the table, catching the football with this young wide receiving skilled core and tight ends and the quarterback at play. I think this is closer to a 13-4 team than my 11-6, to be honest, Tay. Wipe that loss to the Eagles off, wipe that loss to the Jaguars off, sure, maybe you could get a squirrely one in there. That's some weird one you don't expect. Just, maybe it's 12-5, but I think, yeah, 12-5 would be my go-to right now if I repicked. But I said 11-6 in May, so I had to go with 11-6. But I'm thinking 12 or more. I'm going to just say that at the end of the show. I think this is a really young, talented offense. I don't think that's going to change. And Jordan hits the ground running this year, Tay. He's got that under his belt. They have the connectivity now. They had to kind of work through those kinks with the first half of the season last year as he gets his feet underneath him. That's no longer a thing. And then now we got Jeff Hafley in there playing this different brand of defense. And that defense doesn't have to be, top 5, but now they're a top 10 defense. Look out.
Yeah.
12-5. Easy reality. They're playing for that one or 2 seed in the NFC.
I agree with you. So don't get me wrong with the 10-7 thing. I think it's probably more, but I said 10-7 early. So like you, I'm kind of sticking with that. But I'm also playing this conservative. Like what are the chances that this team can be even better than they were last year and all of a sudden make it to the NFC Championship? Like we back like 4 years ago when the Packers were good and they had Aaron Rodgers, and like we're expecting this every year. I just feel like that is a reality that can't come to us for another few years, right? Until we build this foundational team that we've kind of have now, this young team. And that's why I just like, all right, I'm just gonna keep my expectations lower here, just because that's what it should be, right? It should.
No, I don't think it should, Tay. I think this is one of the best retool, rebuild turnarounds of any team in the NFL I've seen in years, and it's our team, which is fantastic. What Goody did, I mean, he's had a couple home run drafts. We'll see what this one ends up being, but he's piggybacking the last 2 drafts, and now with this class, I mean, I think sky's the limit, Tay. I really do. Even when you're going to give Jordan some big money here, that's not going to look big in 4 years. This is their time. This is their window. The next 4 or 5 seasons is the Green Bay Packers window in the NFC. You look at the AFC, it's a different story, but in the NFC, there's not a lot of heavy hitters, and I think the Packers can and will become that.
Yeah, and it happened to the Eagles, so it can happen to the Packers. And you're right, the table is set. So I'm like kind of have to like wipe it from my eyes, like clear the gunk out, and be like, no, realize that this team is good, and as good as they are last year, even better. So your expectations should come along with that, right? And I'm just like really tentative to do that. So I'm excited, about what you're just saying. I believe it too, but I'm just like, okay, let me just see it again. Let me see it again a little bit here before I go all in, because I don't know. It's kind of scary. Like
don't forget the offseason vibes, Tate. They're young. They're hungry. They don't know anything else. They're not an aged veteran team. This is now they got rid of some more old talent off the football team. This is still probably top 2-3 youngest teams in football, and they're already built for success, Tay.
Yeah.
When you have young guys in their prime ready to play football, and you add a Xavier McKinney, captain of your defense, essentially what he's going to become to this mix, and you rebuilt that safety room to go along with everything else and bring in this new young brash defensive coordinator. I mean, let's go, Tay. I think they're in great shape, and kudos to Brian, and Russ getting this thing just pen to paper, rebuilt, redone. They're ready to go. They're full bore, and if they don't come out in the next 4 years with 1 or 2 Super Bowl appearances, I'd be pretty damn surprised. Honestly.
Okay, you heard it here first. let's hold Ren to that for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for doing that exercise with me. I know we kind of put it off for a little while, but it's fun, especially now when they haven't started training camp. Getting in now your predictions is a fun thing to do. Kind of like either gives you a reality check, or you're shooting for the stars here. So I think I'm a little bit tentative. I held back a little bit on my win-loss record. You got a little better, but I think you're 13-3 or 13-4 is like that's pretty it's pretty ambitious, and I hope that they can stick to that. And it's definitely a possibility. So yeah, thanks for doing that with me, Ren, that exercise. And yeah, it's fun. It's hard though. When you just get your record, and then you try to apply those losses to those games. It's like you think that they would win every one, but it's hard to place them.
You can't win every one. That's pretty unlikely now, given a 17-game season, Tay, with 18 on the horizon.
Lumen.
But no, I think this is one of the most talented football teams in the NFL based on where they are up and down the roster. There's a few softer spots on the defense we'd like to see get better, but I think that offensive team is humming, Tay. I think they're just going to be even more fun to watch because we know what they can do, and they don't have to have the clunky get out the gates kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode, Ren. Again, if you're listening to the podcast form, head over to our YouTube channel. You can check this video podcast broadcast out there. While you're there, hit like and subscribe, please. That would be great. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for supporting us. Continue to do so. Ren and I will be back, before the start of training camp here with some more episodes and some more Packers talk. So, Ren, thank you very much for joining me. And to everyone, happy 4th of July and happy America's team, Packers, all that jazz. So, yeah, here's to you guys. Here's to us.
I don't think you could have said it any better, Tay. Happy America's team and 4th to all out there in Packer Universe until episode 277, Tay, on the pup list.